Barakatah Yahweh, Barakatah Yahweh Shai, Bahasham, Rakahakwadash, Barakatum. First and foremost, I want to give all praises, glory, and infinite honors to Yahweh, Bahasham, Yahweh Shai. Double honors to the apostles and elders of Great Millstone who rule and teach well. And peace and salutations to you sincere Akim out there, pushing this word in truth and sincerity to the four corners of the globe. May you brothers endure to the end. This is the brother Ra'aya coming at you with another lesson, and I'm going to start it off in 2 Thessalonians chapter 1, verse 6. Seeing it is a righteous thing with the Most High to recompense tribulation to them that trouble you. And this is Yahweh Bahasham Yahweh Shai, speaking to you Israelites, or you so-called Negroes, Latinos, and Native Americans. We will, have our retribution and recompense towards these heathens for all the horrific shit they've done to us throughout our history, especially these so-called white people or these Edomites. And in this video, I'll be going into a few minutes of this video from Black Journal's YouTube channel titled Saddest: The Use of the Skins of So-Called Black Slaves for Leather. And this is just another example in a long list of examples of the disgusting, nature of these Edomites and that perpetual hatred that they've had towards you Israelites, as it says in Ezekiel chapter 35, verse 5. And just another reason why Yahweh Bahasham Yahweh Shai is going to judge these Edomites horrifically, and he's going to use the hand of Israel to do it in the kingdom of heaven. But this is a fair use copyright disclaimer. I do not own any of the footage in this clip, nor do I stand to gain from it monetarily. It is simply for educational purposes.
Chaos following the Boston mass killing, Crispus Attucks' lifeless body lay on the ground, his sacrifice fueling the flames of revolution. But amidst the outrage and grief, a sinister plot unfolded. A doctor, driven by morbid curiosity and greed, secretly collected Attucks' body, taking a portion of his skin without consent or respect. The doctor, John Warren, saw an opportunity to profit from the martyr's fame. He tanned the skin and sold it to a bookbinder, who crafted a small notebook from the gruesome material. Warren's plan was to peddle the notebook as a macabre souvenir, capitalizing on Attucks' legendary status. The notebook's inscription, made of tanned skin of the Negro whose execution caused the War of Independence, was a cynical marketing ploy, meant to entice buyers with its association with the American Revolution.
I get it if y'all think the states have been neglecting you, but with this new program, they're actually
Warren cared little for the symbolic significance. His goal was to line his pockets with gold. Attucks' skin, once a part of a vibrant living man, was now a commodity, reduced to a mere curiosity for the morbidly fascinated. The notebook became a dark symbol of exploitation, a stark contrast to the heroism and sacrifice that Attucks embodied. Today, the notebook resides in the Wellcome Collection in London, a haunting reminder of the callous disregard for human life and dignity that can accompany even the most noble causes. In today's video segment, sorrowful as it is, we're going to delve into the most dark and disturbing chapter of human history. A story of exploitation, cruelty, and the commodification of the bodies of innocent blacks who were stolen from their continent and shipped aboard the Atlantic to a foreign land, terribly tortured, enslaved, and as though not enough, whose bodies were, to the very extreme, utmost degradation, used for the leathers of shoes, bags, wallets, furnitures, wristwatches, and so on and so forth. We will explore the history of black leather.
So outside of our people being in chattel slavery, these Edomites used the flesh of our people to make various goods. And then what? They used our children as alligator bait. They used Jake's hair as stuffing for pillows and mattresses and stuff like that. And when Jake got lynched, what would they do? They would cut his rod or body parts off and send them to their family members. This is Revelation chapter 11. I'm going to start at verse 8. And their dead bodies shall lie in the street of the great city, which spiritually is called Sodom and Egypt, where also our Lord was crucified. And those are the spiritually dead bodies of the children of Israel, being in the congregation of the dead, as it says in Proverbs 21, verse 16. When you wander out of the way of understanding, our people's heritage and identity stripping away from them, and them, thinking they are black, Latino, Native American, etc., etc. And that great city, which spiritually is known as Sodom and Egypt, is the United States of America. And where our Lord was crucified, they put up that image of a so-called Jesus as the Messiah, a Edomite man with brown hair and blue eyes, which completely goes against what the true likeness of Yahushua is, which you can read about in Revelation 1 around verse 14. He has the appearance of a so-called dark-skinned Negro with a white woolly beard and afro. And also, what Yahushua truly preached is, crucified here. Them using John 3:16 to say that if you believe on the Son of God, you can be saved, when Yahushua only came for the children of Israel. Verse 10. And they that dwell upon the earth shall rejoice over them and make merry, because what? We were in this dead state and didn't know who we were and weren't calling upon our power, and shall send gifts one to another. And those gifts were us in slavery. And as we're seeing in that clip, Israelites, mainly of the southern kingdom, or the so-called Negroes' skin, being used to make various goods, various gifts, because these two prophets tormented them that dwell upon the earth. And that's speaking of the northern and the southern kingdom. Verse 11. And after 3 days and a half, which is roughly 350 years, which would bring us to around the time of the late 1960s going into the 70s, which, what did you see? The so-called civil rights movement, and Israelites having that stance toward Edomites, calling them out for their wickedness. You had the Black Panthers, for example, and these other various movements. But they tried to do things carnally, when we're not going to be able to defeat this man carnally. It's going to be through the Spirit. But around that same time, you also had Elder Abba Bivens, come onto the scene and preach the word, who the Israelites are. And then that led to One West with High Priest Ariah, who had the vision of the 12 tribes chart, breaking down the so-called Latinos, Negroes, and Native Americans as the children of Israel, and showing which tribes they belong to. High Priest Masha, High Priest Yaquab, and of course our elders over here at GMS, who, GMS came after One West. And after 3 days and a half, the Spirit from the Most High entered into them, and they stood upon their feet. The breath of life being breathed into them, as it says in Ezekiel chapter 37, having that understanding of their identity in the scriptures back in them. And great fear fell upon them which saw them, because, the elites of these heathens, especially of these Edomites, understand the scriptures and know that when the children of Israel have woken back up to their identity and are calling back on their power, and when the prophets are out, hey, that means that whatever heathens ruling at the time is going to be taken out of power and judged. And then with this truth flooding the internet, even the common person is starting to wake up to the fact who the true children of Israel are. And what are we seeing? These chariot or so-called UFO sightings increasing all across the planet. And, these prophecies quickly coming to their fulfillment. But the main point I wanted to get is where it said they shall send gifts one to another. And in that video, hey, we're going into some of the gifts that these heathens especially these Edomites, sin amongst each other.
The people who were affected by it, and the lasting impact it has had on the lives of black people today. Before we go on, do not forget to support our work by hitting the thumb button. Share feelings in the comment section below, and share video with friends and families to keep spreading our eye-opening black narrative. Also, kindly subscribe to stay tuned in if you are yet to. Let us dive in. Imagine to ever learn that the skin of certain humans were at a time harvested like animal hide, processed into leather, and turned into everyday goods. This is the dark reality of the transatlantic slave trade, where enslaved Africans were subjected to unimaginable cruelty and exploitation. In the early 19th century, a disturbing practice emerged in the transatlantic slave trade, where the skins of enslaved Africans were harvested and treated like animal hide.
And again, fair use. I do not own any of the footage in this clip, nor do I stand to gain from it monetarily. It's simply for educational purposes.
To create leather goods.
Do you want to see how much money you're eligible for? If you were in a car crash within the last 2 years, that was not your...
The use of black people's skin for leather, books, furniture, and other materialistic things has been in constant existence since the early years of the 1800s. It was a disturbing and well-documented historical practice. During this time, enslaved Africans and African Americans were subjected to unimaginable cruelty, and their skin was harvested after death or killing to create leather goods. This practice was particularly prevalent in the southern United States, where slavery was most prominent. Between 1526 and 1867, over 12 million enslaved people were forcibly brought to the Americas, with several million others dying during the brutal journey. Little were we told that those blacks who had died in the Middle Passage, whose bodies weren't discarded into the Atlantic, were preserved to further accomplish the inhumanity and barbarism towards the black race. They had been turned into black leather, a term used to describe the skin of enslaved people, tanned and treated to create shoes, belts, saddles, and even book bindings. This shocking practice was not only a manifestation of the dehumanizing nature of slavery, but also a lucrative industry that profited from the suffering of others. The process of making human leather was gruesome, with enslavers harvesting skin and treating it with chemicals and processes similar to those used for animal leather. This practice, known as the black leather, started in the Americas, particularly in the southern United States, where slavery was rampant. The use of human skin was first documented in the early 1830s, and it later gained momentum in the 1840s and 1850s as the demand for exotic leather goods increased. This practice was mostly prevalent in the southern United States, where slavery was most prominent. Enslavers would tan and treat the skin of these black individuals to create various leather products, including book bindings, wallets, belts, saddles, and shoes. This process was widely accepted and even advertised in newspapers and catalogs, with some companies specializing in Negro leather or black leather goods. The use of their skin for leather products was a further dehumanizing act, reducing their bodies to mere materials for consumption. Companies and individuals involved in human tanning obtained the skin of people through a web of exploitation and violence. Enslaved people who died or were killed on plantations or during transportation were the major victims. They had their skin taken without consent or respect. Indigenous peoples were also targeted, killed, and exploited during colonial expansion, their skin harvested as a byproduct of conquest. The Negro Leather Company, based in Philadelphia, is a perfect example of the legal organizations involved in this gruesome enterprise. There, they would procure human skin from enslaved people who had died or been killed. On most occasions, they purchased the bodies of these individuals from people who were willing to sell them, or from slave owners at high prices.
And hey, as he just said, indigenous peoples' skins, were also harvested. Speaking of you Northern Kingdom, so-called Native Americans. So this devil has come against all 12 tribes, not just against the Southern Kingdom. And see what that devil Trump is doing right now, getting ICE to go after the so-called Latinos, and he's making moves against the so-called Gadites as well. So you Southern Kingdom aren't too far behind. As it says in Revelation 12 verse 12, this devil is about to come down in great wrath, because he knoweth that he hath but a short time.
After purchase, they'll clean and prepare the skin, removing flesh and fat, and soak it in water or a solution to soften it. The skin would be scraped or de-haired to remove excess hair or tissue before being treated with tanning agents like vegetable or mineral tannins. Once tanned, the skin would be softened and conditioned with oils or waxes to make it supple and workable. The company would then cut and craft the human leather into various products, such as book bindings, wallets, or belts. These products would be finished with additional treatments like dyeing, embossing, or applying protective coatings. Ever heard of the word anthropodermic bibliopagy? This is the word for the act of binding books with human skins. On here.
But yeah, that's pretty much it with that clip. You know, I'd recommend you Sincere, Akim, and Akwat to go check it out because it's a very informative clip. But let's get back to these precepts, because like I opened up with that First Thessalonians, the Most High is going to recompense those that trouble us. And at the head of that list, as pursuant to Psalms chapter 83, and with the overwhelming, evidence and historical records on your wickedness, is you Edomites. But this is Ecclesiastes chapter 3 verse 15. That which hath been is now, and that which is to be hath already been, and the Most High requireth that which is past, because reincarnation is biblical. So, those Israelites that were in slavery in the past and tormented, hey, we're back here today through the reincarnation. And it's the same for you Edomites as well. You devils that were doing these horrific things back then are back here again. And you're still being wicked. And hey, Yahweh Bahashem Yahweh Shai is going to recompense you for, what your forefathers did. Because you are your forefathers. This is Isaiah chapter 14. I'm going to read verses 21 to 22. Prepare slaughter for his children, for the iniquity, the wickedness of their fathers. Because again, you are your forefathers in the reincarnation, that they do not rise, nor possess the land, nor fill the face of the world with cities. For I will rise up against them, saith Yahweh of hosts, and cut off from Babylon. And America, besides being known as spiritual Sodom and Egypt, is also known as Babylon the Great in the scriptures. And you Edomites run Babylon the Great. And cut off from Babylon the name and the remnant and the son and the nephew, saith Yahweh. Because the seed, the line comes through the male. And you Edomites are going into hardcore bondage and slavery for the first 1,000 years of the kingdom of heaven. And after that first 1,000 years, every Edomite is going to be gathered up and permanently culled from this planet by fire. So when all the males are gone, hey, that's the end of the entire nation. This is Jeremiah chapter 30, verse 16. Therefore, all they that devour thee shall be devoured, and all thine adversaries, every one of them, shall go into captivity, go into slavery. And they that spoil thee shall be a spoil, and they that prey upon thee will I give for a prey. And that clip we just played was another example of Esau, Edom spoiling us and making a prey out of us and devouring us. So, hey, you Edomites and other heathens have captivity and slavery to look forward to. But we're not gonna do no wild shit like use your skin for lampshades or book covers, though hey, speaking as a man, but I believe in the kingdom flaying is gonna come back in a big way. So we're gonna what do they say, we're gonna get your pound of flesh on the right hand. Amongst all the other terrors, we're going to meditate towards you Edomites. This is Revelation chapter 13, verses 9 to 10. If any man have an ear, let him hear. He that leadeth into captivity, the transatlantic slave trade, shall go into captivity. He that killeth with the sword, all those Israelites that were killed during slavery, during the Reconstruction era, during what? The so-called discovery of the New World by those Spanish Edomite conquistadors, and all that killing they did towards the northern kingdom, shall be killed with the sword. Here is the patience and the faith of the saints. And hey, the elect of Yahweh Bahashem Yahweh Shai are patiently waiting for you Edomites to be taken out of power, and the nation of Israel to be raised up and rule over you in the kingdom of heaven, and finally get back on you. But now I'm going to close it out in Ezekiel chapter 25. I'm going to read verses 12 to 14. Thus saith the Lord Yahweh, because that Edom hath dealt against the house of Judah, Judah of the southern kingdom, so-called blacks, so-called African Americans, by taking vengeance. And hey, when you use a man, a woman, or a child's skin for goods, that's clearly taken vengeance, and hath greatly offended and revenged himself upon them. Therefore, thus saith the Lord Yahweh, I will also stretch out mine hand upon Edom, and I will cut off man and beast from it, and I will make it desolate from Teman, and they of Dedan shall fall by the sword. And during World War III, which is quickly coming upon us, everywhere you Edomites dwell is going to be hit with nuclear missiles. And America, Babylon, is going to be completely wiped off the earth by those nuclear missiles. And then, when the 144,000 with Yahweh Shai come off those chariots, they're going to have spiritual bodies and begin enslaving you heathens. He that leadeth into captivity shall go into captivity. And after that first 1,000 years of the kingdom of heaven, these other heathens are going to be allowed to go back to their lands, but still be subject under our rulership. But as for you Edomites, like I just said, your entire nation is going to be culled from this planet. As it said back in Isaiah chapter 14, that neither remnant, nor son, nor nephew may stand. Verse 14, and I will lay my vengeance upon Edom by the hand of my people Israel. And they shall do in Edom according to mine anger and according to my fury, and they shall know my vengeance, saith the Lord Yahweh. So if Yahweh Bahashem Yahweh Shai allowed you Edomites to do what you did to his chosen, to his children that he loves, what do you think he's going to allow his children to do to the nation that he hates? But that's it with this video. With this video, I hope you sincere Akim and Akwath were edified. Just keep strong. We are almost out of this final wicked captivity of the heathen nations, chiefly of the Edomites. And as always, I'm going to say Abad Babal, Kwam Yasharala, and until next time, Shalom.